Hello and welcome to U.S. Cricket Now, the podcast covering all things Major League Cricket. I'm Peter Della, and with me is Aaman Patel.
Coming up, we take a look at tonight's abandoned match between the Washington Freedom and the Texas Super Kings due to inclement weather, which sees the Freedom automatically advance into the championship final. We also will preview the Eliminator, where the San Francisco Unicorns will take on MI New York. And then finally, we'll hear from Sanjay Govil, the owner of the Washington Freedom, about their 2025 season and his reaction to the team making that final.
We want this sport to be a U.S. franchise, U.S. ownership, U.S. viewership, and get more and more coverage in the U.S.
Don't forget to follow U.S. Cricket Now on Instagram, X, and TikTok. And you can watch us on YouTube. Just search U.S. Cricket Now. Now, Aaman, we had 30 regular season matches, including all the ones in Lauderhill, that were played to a conclusion, full points awarded in every single match. And I made plans to come back for the playoffs. I purposely skipped Lauderhill, and I thought I could do those podcasts from home because I thought after what happened in last year's T20 World Cup, what's the point of going to Lauderhill? I'm going to book a plane ticket, and I'm just going to sit and watch. Nothing happened except a lot of rain in Lauderhill, and instead we got every single match played to a conclusion in Lauderhill. Yes, we missed some overs here and there, but I land in Texas tonight, Aaman, and I brought the rain with me. It's all my fault.
Well, they were blaming us, the broadcast crew, too, because we were coming from Florida. They said we brought the rain from Florida and carried it over to Grand Prairie. The wild part about this was it wasn't really in the forecast. There was nothing on the radar that showed, okay, it's going to come down. We thought maybe there's opportunities for maybe a quick shower, and then it just seemingly came out of nowhere. And I feel like we might have jinxed it because we were talking about, especially Andrew Leonard and myself, we were talking about how to get the 30 regular season games in, that's pretty incredible for what we did. And, we got all of them in, and now it's smooth sailing from here. Should be a good week. And sailing is the word because there was plenty of rain to go sailing on as the puddles were climbing onto the field. And, it was so disappointing not to see this game because I was really intrigued by the matchup. But the Washington Freedom, they get the reward for having such a great regular season.
It was very bizarre because the ground was dry at the scheduled start time, 7 o'clock. There was no rain, but it was overcast. They put the covers on because the ground staff thought, hey, we don't want to take any chances here. Looks like it could rain. It might not. We're not sure the way the storm is going to flow, but just as a precaution, we'll keep the covers on. And then around, I think it was 7:15, I was actually talking to you outside the commentator box, and Simon Toffel, the head of the umpires and match referees, he popped out and he was saying, I think there might be some lightning. We just kind of want to wait. Somebody said there might be some lightning. And literally like 5 seconds after he said that, boom, there was this massive lightning strike with a huge roll of thunder. It was like, uh-oh. All right, time to take cover.
It was funny, too, because, again, he said it was just a bit of precaution, and then bang. And from that point on, you were debating, do I have to go back to the Airbnb to get a microphone so we can record tonight at the stadium? And it was just a real hassle for the entirety of it. And then the rain came and didn't stop. It was so hard and swirling. I think that was the thing. All of us expected to move in a direction, but it kept swirling around. You asked if there were any tornadoes about because it did really have that kind of feel. Clouds were real low. You had a tornado warning go out, which just means there's the conditions are in place for a tornado to form. Nothing did form, but it was a very, very quick turn of rain, and everyone was just stuck there waiting. And I think we all knew what the end result was going to end up being. There were some worries about our commentators' box as well. It's not a permanent fixture there, and it's a bit of a tent. We had water kind of soaking through, and there were worries about the wires and everything. But everything worked out all right. Everyone was all right. The broadcast never went down, so all's well that ends well. But I know the Super Kings, they'd be gutted because they would have really fancied their chances at home to get to a final. They've been to 3 straight playoffs. They've been to this game they've been to an Eliminator every single year. never the qualifier, and they fail to get into the playoffs, into the final every single year. And so this has been a real opportunity to do it, and they'll just have to wait one more day to see if they can get it done.
And I got to commend the fans, the TSK fans who did come out, because aside from the thunder and lightning inside the concourse, what you could hear was a lot of those TSK whistles. The fans who came out to support the Super Kings, they were blowing the whistles. There wasn't much else to do during the rain delays, so you could hear the whistles. They were whistling. They were trying to stay positive, and unfortunately, they'll have to come back on Friday if they're going to have a chance to get into the final. And aside from the Super Kings fans, one of the other things that I was able to do during the rain delay was speak to the owner of Washington Freedom, Sanjay Govil, who shared his thoughts on the 2025 season. And just at the tail end of talking to him, the announcement came over the PA system from Joe Hickey that the match had been abandoned and Freedom had secured their spot in Sunday's final. So I got to ask Sanjay for his reaction about making the final, and here's what Sanjay had to say.
I'm here with Sanjay Govil, who's the owner of Washington Freedom, who finished at the top of the table, defending champions, looking for a repeat this year in MLC 2025. What's it been like being at the head of the franchise that's been so successful?
It's been an amazing experience. I think having the wealth of experience of the IPL teams has really propelled our league. So we didn't have those learning, curves which people normally have. So it's been a great experience. When we came in, we had no IPL experience, but we learned fast, and all the franchises were very helpful in how we progressed.
When you say you've been able to get some help from the IPL franchises and observe what they're doing and put that into place in some of the things that the Freedom do, what specifically are some of the things that you've been able to glean?
Well, I think when we have our board meetings, for example, there are ideas which are floated around in terms of the schedule, how to play, how to grow American audiences. We want to make sure that we don't play to Indian times. We want to really develop a league here, start having local fan bases. I think all those ideas were tremendous because we play in the US, this is an American league, and we want to have American audiences and play to American time zones.
What is the current status of Washington Freedom's attempts to try and get a venue going so that they can start playing games in the DC area?
Sure. So we are, we are in the process of identifying and solidifying a few venues, and just stay tuned. We want to really have a stadium in DC, and we want to have audiences there, and DMV is a big area for cricket leagues, and so it's a great audience, and Washington DC is a great sports loving city. We have pretty much all the franchises there, and cricket is being one of them.
Seeing what's been done here with Grand Prairie and renovating this facility, and then also Oakland Coliseum, what they did earlier this year to try and cater that venue to cricket purposes, has that influenced Washington Freedom's thinking in terms of how they approach trying to secure a venue, whether it's looking for something like that that's already in existence that you can retrofit for cricket, or is it more of a case of you're trying to find something that is an empty plot of land that you can custom build yourself?
I think the options we have right now is more custom built. We always have the FedEx Field in Maryland, which I just the Commanders are moving to DC, RFK. But I think we're looking at right now building a cricket-first multi-purpose stadium, because, as you can see, this is a great venue, right? I mean, it's rained so much here, but the drainage is amazing, right? That you don't see the puddles of water and all that stuff, and that's the kind of stadium we want to have.
In terms of the Freedom success, a lot of changes this year. No Steve Smith, no Travis Head in particular. Those are the two big ones, and yet you guys have marched along top of the table and could be on your way to a second title. In spite of all the changes, why have you been able to maintain that level of success from last year to this year?
I think it's just the camaraderie, the culture we have, the togetherness. I think Ricky Ponting does a fantastic job in cultivating his team. He had a great run with the Punjab Super Kings and the IPL. And like with the Punjab Super Kings, we also, if you notice, we only had one full-time bowler pretty much throughout the season because we lost a lot of players to injuries. But somehow we always find a way to win. And we had our fair of losses too. But but now it's a new season with the playoffs, and let's see what happens.
And aside from the overseas players, one of the things that has been a standout feature of the Freedom Squad is the success of the U.S. domestic players, in particular. Sarabnesh Valkar last year being a leading wicket taker, Andre Kraus as well, coming off of his World Cup performance. They've continued to contribute again this year. But somebody like Ian Holland, who is really stepping up in a big way for the first time this year as well, USA national team player. The fact that you've got so many U.S. players contributing, what does that do not only for the success of the Freedom on the field, but also to cultivate more awareness in terms of the American cricket contingent?
So we have. So the good news is that we were able to identify these players in the first draft itself, which was held, a few years back, and our domestic roster pretty much has stayed the same. So Andres, Obas, Sarab, Ian Holland, all these players, Mukhtar, Mahendru, all these players were drafted by us then, and then we put a lot of effort into these players in coaching them. Like we have sent them to Australia, for example, right? And now they're obviously busy with the US calendar. Like you said, some of these players play for the US. So it's been a constant effort, and the same thing is applied to other teams also. And I think we are well positioned. If you see the performance of domestic players, year 1, year 2, and year 3, I think you will agree with me that year 3, the domestic players have performed extremely well, and that bodes very well for the U.S. team in the World Cup and the Olympics. So we're very, very proud of that. We want this sport to be a U.S. franchise, U.S. ownership, U.S. viewership, and get more and more coverage in the U.S. because we can't be a league playing here, right? And try to get an audience in some other country. It just doesn't. It's not going to work.
What else do you feel is something that MLC is looking forward to improving the standards, whether it's the U.S. players or beyond, on the field, off the field, as we reach the tail end of Season 3 and heading into Season 4?
I think we definitely want more audiences, right? I think we got to do a better job in marketing. I think we have the quality of players. Obviously you have, we are not the IPL where, all the calendars get opened up. But having said that, I think, we have great quality of players. Hopefully next year we're going to get some of those players. You mentioned Steve Smith and Amako Janssen and all those guys back. So I think that needs to continue happening, and I think the awareness of MLC needs to continue happening. It's even today when I talk to a lot of people, they really don't know what MLC is, right? Which is a travesty in my opinion. So that's something which we really, really need to improve. And then it's heartwarming to see all these academies which are creeping up all over the country. They're full. It's hard to get spaces in the good academies, so it's really good to see all that. But as you start getting more and more of these in high schools and colleges and so on and so forth. I mean, that's the ultimate dream. But the infrastructure has to be there, which is the fields and all that stuff, and that's something which we have to work on.
All right, so we've just gotten the announcement that the match has been abandoned. There's too much lightning in the area, and the puddles around the boundary were the thing that really killed it off. The square and most of the field looked fine, but lightning's still hopping around. And just Sanjay, your reaction to clinching a spot in the final, maybe not the way you wanted to do it with the weather, but the fact that you're going back to the final and have another crack at the title, what does it mean to you?
Well, it's great. I rather would have played the match because I think that's good for MLC, and it's a shame that all these, we had all these spectators and they couldn't see a good game of cricket. Obviously, I'm happy to be in the finals. I'm not going to, I'm going to be honest, but I rather would have had a game.
All right, let's look ahead to tomorrow's Eliminator between the San Francisco Unicorns and MI New York. And there's some breaking news about this Unicorns team, and they've hit the injury bug hard. They've lost Horace Ruff, Romario Shepherd had the ankle injury, and now Finn Allen will be leaving the team as well. It's a broken foot that he's come down with, and he is no longer available for the Unicorns. And this is an MI New York team they're going up against, who will be feeling a bit of momentum after having an incredible finish to their season to get themselves into the playoffs. And it feels like 2023 all over again, Peter Della Penna, because New York's got some momentum, and the team they're playing in the Eliminator seems to be fading at the wrong time.
I think about the transitive property that we all learned in high school math. A is greater than B is greater than C. And MI New York finished the season with victories over LA Knight Riders, and it was the Knight Riders who beat the Unicorns to prevent them from finishing in the top two. So if the Knight Riders were able to beat the Unicorns and MI New York swept the Knight Riders, if A is greater than B is greater than C, could we see MI New York beating the Unicorns, taking advantage of some of these injuries that have depleted the Unicorn squad? Could they get into Friday's contest against TSK? Anything can happen.
Remember last year, it was the injury bug that caught up with them domestically with the pace bowlers. You know, you didn't have Carmine LaRue. Brody Couch was injured for a bit. They just didn't. Liam Plunkett was injured. They had to go and turn to Janoy Drysdale to go and bowl some overs. And they were rotating through their domestic guys, but don't have that same luxury with the internationals. And again, they've hit a wall as well. Remember, they won 6 in a row, and then they failed to get to 8 wins. They were the first team to qualify for the playoffs, seemed to be a shoo-in for the top 2, and end up outside looking in. Now, I don't think the Finn Allen injury in terms of their team composition affects it too much. I think Tim Seifert, who has played this year, will just slide straight back in. But when you think about a Mario Shepherd and a Horace Ruff, well, do you go back to a Ben Lister? Or do you say, no, we're going to fill that gap domestically? We're going to go Carmine LaRue and Brody Couch and Liam Plunkett, and then have Cooper Connolly be the option for or Mario Shepherd to give you the lower order batting. Those are all real questions that they're going to have to ask themselves. And for a team that has struggled to take wickets in the past and relied on Horace Ruff to do it this season, it's a big ask.
Yeah, I think you might be right there, because I'm looking at the Unicorn squad, and really the two key fixtures in terms of the domestic players, Sanjay Krishnamurti and Hassan Khan. The others you can kind of rotate around based on what's happening with the overseas slots, and we very well could see that combination of bowlers coming in for the Unicorns to round out the domestic contingent. Now, you mentioned the injuries, Finn Allen and Romario Shepherd and Horace Ruff. The one guy who isn't injured is Hassan Khan, and that to me is the key guy in this matchup for the Unicorns, because Hassan Khan, in the 2 matches against MI New York in the league phase, in a situation where Unicorns were really struggling in the first contest between these two sides at Oakland Coliseum, Hassan Khan turned that match around, 43 off 17 balls, 2 4s and 5 6s. It was Xavier Bartlett who ended up getting the player of the match award because he finished off the chase with 59 off 25. But really, Hassan Khan was the catalyst in that match. And then the game at Grand Prairie, Hassan Khan finishes off the innings 31 not out off 9 balls. He's been unstoppable against MI New York. That's the guy that they don't want to see. And as long as he's in the lineup, I think the Unicorns will feel like they're still in the dominant position heading into that contest.
For me with New York, it really turns to 2 left-handers. For me, I look at Quinton DeKalb up top the order. If he's able to score runs and punish the opening seam bowlers, including Xavier Bartlett, maybe the Brody Couch, Carmine LaRue, whoever comes in, that would really demoralize that unit, and I think could really show some, chinks in the armor of a bowling attack that has lost so much. And then I look at Trent Bolt. If you get through a Tim Seifert and a Jake Frazier McGurk or a Matt Short, and you force then Krishnamurti out early, Hassan Khan out early, and you don't have just the comfort of Finn Allen, again, that's another real big mental blow. I think that if New York want to win this game, I still fancy the Unicorns in this matchup. But if New York want to win this game, I think they have to put on the runs early and really attack a pace bowling group that's reeling. and they need Trent Bolt to get through a top order who has lost a key cog in that machine.
And don't forget about Naj Kenjige, too. He was not there in the first matchup at Oakland Coliseum, and he'll be healthy this time around to be there for MI New York to put up a fight against the Unicorns. Now, rain delay didn't dampen the spirits of a group of TSK fans, including Prasanna Balakrishnan, who I met initially at the T20 World Cup in New York last year. He traveled up from Texas to New York because he wanted to see what was happening at the venue and watch the matches there, but he lives in the Dallas area, and he's been coming to Major League Cricket for all 3 seasons at Grand Prairie Stadium. And I ran into him again during the rain delay. He was one of those faithful TSK superfans blowing the whistle, didn't want to give up hope of a match happening tonight, and he was gracious enough to spend a few minutes speaking with me. Here's what Prasanna had to say about his experiences so far supporting the Super Kings.
Who were in the concourse underneath the steel here, trying to take cover through all the lightning and rain delay. They started to peek back out, including you, Prasanna, and then they told us, no, there's too much lightning going on, so let's go back and take cover. What's been your experience so far here coming out for the opening night of the playoffs?
Yeah, so we came here like 6:15. It was still okay. There was still like a bit of a cloud cover, but one side it was clear and another side was clear. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just a passing shower. Even in forecast didn't show too much. So I'm like, okay, maybe 1 hour at best. And then we come in, we get the first call up. The covers started going on. Even before the rain comes, the first sign of covers go on, and then we get the announcement, and then it's been worse since. Incessant rain, all of that. And even if not for the rain, in this country, like when you get a lightning, it's like a minimum 30-minute stop. It's what I think. So, yeah, rain stop, but still there's incessant lightning. So it's crazy.
But 2 hours and 15 minutes after the schedule started play, you're still here, Prasanna. Why are you still here? You haven't given up hope yet.
I mean, I just cling on to a slight bit of hope. My dad put a deal with me saying that we'll stay here till 9:30. If not, we'll just go home.
Now, I have to say, Prasanna, you're decked out in your TSK yellow, all right? You got your friends here. They got their Whistle for Texas shirts on, but the security guy here, he's got an MI New York hat. I've seen a lot of these security officials here with the MI New York bucket hats.
Yeah.
What's going on here? We've got some Benedict Arnold turncoats here working the security here at Grand Prairie Stadium.
That's crazy. I mean, there's no restriction, right, as to what you can wear and what not to wear.
But you've got the Texas Super Kings yellow bucket hat. They've been giving them out here. Well, why don't the home security officials have the Super Kings bucket hats? MI New York not even playing tonight. What's going on here?
I know, right? I mean, I think they're selling the bucket hats more than anything. I think they tried to give out the Washington ones, but I think they sold out. So it's like, whatever's left, yeah, take it out. Is what it is. 100%.
All right, what do you think TSK's chances are of coming out on top as tournament champions for the first time this year?
Hopefully they do, but let's see. Last 2 years they've lost in the Challenger. This year, I think we've peaked at the right time. We narrowly lost to the Unicorns. Maybe if we had beaten Unicorns, would have been top, and even if today had been washed out, we would have gone to the final straight. But let's see. It's the final. It's the playoffs, 1 game at a time. Let's see how it goes.
I know Faf has been a mainstay for the Super Kings across the world, but being a 40-year-old doing what he's done this season, what has impressed you the most about his performances?
Especially the way that he's batted in Dallas, because from the way he started in Oakland, 3 games, he didn't score runs. And I was thinking, okay, he's back in Dallas. He was the top scorer last year. Let's see what he can do. And he was absolutely phenomenal. He also scored a century. He also scored a 90 up in Florida, and he came out. But he's been superb, be it on the field, and even that catch he took in Oakland to turn the game against MI New York. It just goes to show that he's been super fit, and he's just been a pleasure to watch. Absolutely fantastic.
And then from the American contingent, with Super Kings in particular, Sai Mukamala, who has stepped up for the USA national team over the last year and a half, and finally got an opportunity this year after 2 years on the bench, the way he's performed, as well as Calvin Savage and his opportunities. And then Shubham Ranjani, domestic player, he stood out as well. has been your opinion of the way the domestic players have performed for TSK?
Yeah, it's been good. Like, you cannot be carried. You cannot, as much as there were like 6 foreign players, they cannot do the heavy lifting. Like some of the foreign players have been kind of underwhelming, like the Marcus Stonis, Daryl Mitchell. They have been very underwhelming, but I'm impressed to see Sai Teja Mukamala, because I got a good friend who knows Sai Teja well from the cricket academy in New Jersey, and he's like, Sai Teja has to play. He has to play. He has to, because he's that good. And we're seeing this time that he's been pretty good. And Shubham Banjane, I was like, okay, he's a good player. I've heard some things about him, but every time he's taken the bat, he's performed well. Calvin Savage has performed in a couple of games, and even Ziaul Haq. Like last year he was good. This year in a few games he's been superb, and it's ultimately it's the way the locals perform that turns your team. You know? If you look at last year, how did Washington Freedom win? Soham Netawalkar, Andre Ghosh, Jesse Singh, all those local players stepped up. It's not just the foreign players that have to step up; it's the locals that have to help as well. So it's been good, but ultimately you have to do it in the playoffs as well.
Anything else you want to say about experiencing MLC here in Texas?
It's been superb. I've been coming here for 3 seasons. I wouldn't mind coming here for next 30 seasons as well, because it's been absolutely superb.
Well, pleasure to hear from him. And don't forget to subscribe, follow us, and rate us on Apple and Spotify. And if you want to get in touch with us as well, drop us an email at uscricketnow@gmail.com.
US Cricket Now is a Viral Tribe Entertainment and Square Cut production. We'll be back tomorrow for the Eliminator game between San Francisco Unicorns and MI New York. We hope, anyway. Until then, that's it for this edition of US Cricket Now. I'm Peter Della Penna for Aaman Patel. We'll see you tomorrow.